Welcome back to the deep dive. We are jumping straight into a really fascinating stack of sources today, and they seem to fundamentally redefine what we usually think of when we hear the word healing.
Yeah, absolutely. For most people, healing sounds like a destination, doesn't it? Like a point of perfection you have to reach.
Or maybe a list of problems you have to tick off before you can finally be done or fixed.
That mindset, well, that's precisely what these sources we've gathered are challenging. We're unpacking teachings based around this idea of the healer's path and also something called the gratitude healing system. And they really flip the script entirely.
Okay, so what's our mission here? What are we trying to understand from these?
Well, the mission is to unpack why this journey, this path, is described again and again as a circle. You know, something that always brings you back rather than, say, a linear ladder you climb or some problem you solve once and for all.
A circle, not a ladder.
Okay.
And there's this initial captivating concept. Let's get right into that because it sounds, well, frankly, like a huge relief. The core idea seems to be when you start this, you're not actually trying to fix yourself.
Right, because the sources argue you were never broken to begin with.
So instead, you're remembering yourself. Is that the idea? Accessing this place they call a quiet corner within where wholeness has always been. It sounds beautiful.
It is. And that switch, it's not just words, you know, it
Right.
changes the entire feeling of the work. If you believe you're already whole, then the main task isn't this strenuous effort or beating yourself up thinking you have to earn your wholeness.
It's just tuning in.
Exactly. Tuning in. It kind of removes the pressure, the deadline, that whole idea of I'll be happy when.
Okay, I hear that, and it sounds really appealing, but I have to push back a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because this is where I think people might get skeptical. If I'm already whole, if wholeness is just sitting there in my quiet corner, why do I need a path?
Yeah.
Why do I need a system at all? Isn't that just another kind of striving, another thing to do?
That's the key question, isn't it? And the distinction lies in how the path itself is defined. The sources totally acknowledge that we live in a world that constantly pulls us away from that quiet corner. All the noise, the demands.
Life happens.
Life happens. So the GHS, the gratitude healing system, and the healer's path, they aren't about building something new from scratch. They're more like building a reliable way back.
Ah, okay. A path back to that innate state when life inevitably pulls you off course.
Yeah. It's a mechanism for returning home, moment by moment, really.
So the circle isn't about just repeating things, it's about returning.
Mhm.
Precisely. Think about it. A ladder suggests you reach the top and you're done, right?
The circle acknowledges that life will always end. Well, the sources call them waves. Stress, sorrow, joy even, confusion. These things keep coming.
And they're not signals that you failed or that you need more healing.
No, that's the crucial shift. The sources define healing not as like the permanent absence of these waves.
But it's something much more dynamic.
Yes. Healing is defined as learning to surf them with presence. It means you can be right in the middle of a really difficult wave, a tough time, but because you know how to find your ground, how to access that quiet corner,
You don't get totally swept away by it. You don't drown in the drama.
you got it. You learn to ride it out.
And that change in perspective, just that shift, seems to have a really profound effect. I love the anecdote from the retreat that was shared in the sources. The transformations weren't these huge, dramatic lightning bolts. They were subtle realizations.
Like the person who said, I came here looking for answers. I'm leaving knowing I already had them.
Yeah, that captures it perfectly.
Yeah.
It's that shift from fixing to remembering.
And another person realized healing isn't about changing who I am, but being with who I am. It's about accepting the whole experience, the pain, the doubt, the joy, without slapping a label of failure on it.
You stop seeing your own humanity as a problem you need to solve.
And start seeing it more as like the landscape, the terrain you just need to learn to navigate with a bit more. Grace, maybe.
Okay, so the path requires sincerity, not necessarily hours and hours. And its impact is subtle, steady, not always dramatic fireworks. How do we actually do it then? What are the core mechanics? When the waves are crashing, what tools does this path actually give us?
Right. This is where the sources bring in a really helpful analogy. It makes the whole mechanism easier to grasp. They describe the core practices as these two integrated things, like the two wings of a bird, stillness and awareness, and you need both working together to fly.
Two wings of a bird. Okay, I like that. So
Yeah.
break those down. They found link, but they do different things. What's the role of stillness?
Stillness is the wing that grounds you. Its job is mainly physical, neurological. It brings you down into your body. It helps soften the nervous system. And really importantly, it creates spaciousness to breathe.
Okay, so it's the anchor. It stops you from just being swept away by thoughts.
Yeah, it's the anchor. And if stillness is the anchor, then awareness, well, that's the other thing.
The intelligence wing.
Kind of. Awareness is the intelligence, yeah. It shows you what's actually real in this moment, not just the story your mind is spinning about what should be real. Awareness helps you see patterns, you know, thoughts, behaviors. And it allows you to respond with clarity instead of habit.
So you actually see the wave coming instead of just getting knocked over by it unexpectedly.
Exactly. You see it.
I think it's important to touch on what happens if those wings aren't balanced, though. Like, what if you only practice stillness? Just try to be calm.
Good point. Stillness without awareness, that can lead to just numbing out. You might feel settled, but it could be dissociation, just checking out. You've created space, maybe, but you haven't actually brought any light, any recognition to what's really going on inside.
Okay. And the flip side, Awareness without stillness.
Well, that often looks like anxious observation, hypervigilance. You see all your patterns, all your flaws, maybe.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah, but you feel kind of powerless, stuck. You don't have that inner space, that groundedness to respond differently. You just watch yourself react in the same old ways.
Oh, yeah. The anxiety of seeing your own habits play out, but feeling like you can't stop them, that definitely hits home. But when you bring the two wings together, stillness and awareness, the sources say that's when you shift. You stop living from reactivity.
From that automatic, habitual place.
Yeah, start living from presence.
Yes. And this presence, this is what they identify as the foundation. It's the soil in which healing grows. It's the state where real transformation can actually happen, mostly because you're no longer fighting so hard against the moment you're in. Okay, so we get the philosophy now. Healing is presence, and it's supported by stillness and awareness, the two wings.
But how do we weave that into daily life? How do we structure it? This brings us to the practical framework, the gratitude healing system, or GHS. It rests on 3 pillars.
That's right. The GHS is really the structure for bringing those abstract ideas, stillness, awareness, into your whole self day to day. The first pillar is the body. This is about really listening to physical signals, the tension in your shoulders, that knot in your stomach.
Things we usually ignore or try to push through.
Exactly. And it's about actively regulating the nervous system, mostly using the breath, simple breath practices.
Okay, the body. Often the last place we look, but the first place stress shows up. What's pillar number 2?
The second is energy. Now, this can sound a bit abstract, so let's be clear. In this context, energy means noticing your patterns of thought and emotion. But the crucial difference here is seeing them not as fixed, solid facts about you,
But as
temporary flows, like currents moving through you.
Okay, can you give an example? The difference between seeing, say, anxiety as a fact versus a flow.
Sure.
If a wave of panic or maybe deep sadness washes over you, seeing it as a fact is like saying, okay, I am an anxious person, or this sadness is me.
Yeah.
You identify with it completely. It becomes your identity.
Right. You basically stop the flow and turn it into a permanent state, a label. But seeing it as a flow, that means you notice the physical sensations. You recognize, there's that familiar pattern of anxiety energy moving through.
And you allow it to pass without making it the whole truth about who you are.
Exactly. You acknowledge it, feel it maybe, but you don't have to build your house there. You trust it will shift.
That reframing feels huge. It gives the feeling a lifespan, not a life sentence. Okay, and the third pillar of GHS.
The third is awareness. We talked about it as a wing. But within the GHS structure, awareness is the specific intentional practice of resting back in that quiet corner. It's consciously remembering that sense of wholeness beyond all stories, even the stories created by those flows of energy and emotion.
So we have body, energy, and awareness as the pillars. But you mentioned something ties them all together. What turns these from just like techniques into actual healing? That's gratitude.
Yes, gratitude is the key ingredient, the weaver, the bridge. And the sources are really careful here. Gratitude in the system is not about forcing positivity.
Not like pretending everything's fine when it isn't.
Definitely not. It's defined more as a gentle recognition of the gifts already present, even tiny ones.
Yeah.
The simple fact that you can take a breath, that your eyes can see this room, that you have a place to rest.
Okay, a gentle recognition. How does that actually help with healing? What does it do?
Well, its main function seems to be softening resistance. The fighting against what is, the clinging, the denial, that's often the biggest block. Gratitude kind of bypasses that resistance by gently shifting your focus, even for a second, to what is working, to the gifts that exist alongside the difficulty. It helps you transform an ordinary moment, like just taking a breath, into something, well, almost sacred. It's the way back to wholeness because it widens your perspective.
Let's make that really concrete. When you're using the GHS, what does gratitude actually sound like across those pillars?
Okay, so in stillness, when you're just anchoring in the body, gratitude might simply be, thank you for this breath, just acknowledging it.
Simple.
Vary it when you turn towards the body pillar, where we often hold so much judgment or pain. Gratitude could be, thank you shoulders for carrying so much, or thank you heart for beating even while I'm struggling. And that feels like the core insight here, maybe for the whole approach. Gratitude isn't about denying the pain or the struggle.
No.
It's about widening the lens. So the pain isn't the only thing in the picture. Exactly. Pain is not the whole story. Gratitude reminds your nervous system, reminds you that even in the middle of difficulty, there's still capacity, still life happening, still things to receive. That wider lens changes everything. It lets you hold both. Wow, this is really hard, and I am still here, breathing, capable. Yes, holding both is key.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly useful, potentially life-changing. But for someone listening thinking, okay, where do I start? What's the practical application? If the path needs sincerity, not ours, what's the absolute smallest, most doable entry point? The sources offer this tiny micro practice, right? The 30-second practice.
Yes, and its power is really in its simplicity and consistency. It's designed so you can do it multiple times a day, anywhere, without needing special equipment or even privacy.
Okay, let's walk through it step by step. What's the very first thing you do?
First, wherever you are waiting in line, sitting at your desk, about to walk into a meeting, just pause. Just stop the forward momentum for a breath.
Okay, pause. Then.
Take one slow breath in. Really feel it coming. Make it intentional.
Got it. Slow breath in. Third step is the exhale.
Exhale gently, maybe a little slower than the inhale. And fourth, This is the core of it. Whisper silently to yourself, "Thank you, I am here."
Thank you, I am here. That's it. The whole thing.
That's the whole 30-second practice. And if we look at the neurological impact, doing this consistently, even just these tiny 30-second resets, it actually starts to rewire your nervous system. It gently pulls you out of chronic stress mode. It retrains your awareness to look for that quiet corner.
It's like practicing the habit of return over and over in tiny ways.
Exactly. You're building that muscle memory for presence.
And the beauty of this, as the sources point out, is how it starts to ripple out. It changes those small everyday moments that usually trigger stress or reactivity. The path isn't lived in big workshops necessarily, but in these tiny, often invisible choices, like maybe taking that one breath before firing off an angry email.
Or a conscious pause before you start the car and rush into traffic.
Or just that quiet thank you whispered to yourself before falling asleep. Small things.
And because presence, that grounded state, is somewhat contagious, the impact goes beyond just you. The sources mention how when one person in a group touches their own quiet corner, even subtly, the whole group feels it. There's a shift.
So the healing, the presence, it ripples outward. You become, without even trying, maybe a quiet light for others.
Yeah, a reminder that peace isn't some far-off goal. It's actually possible right here, right now. And that the path doesn't end with some big graduation, some certificate saying healed.
No, definitely not. They make the point that the only graduation ceremony is really the peace you can find in this breath.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful summary, isn't it? It points to the moment-by-moment commitment. Not a commitment to being perfect, but just to showing up sincerely.
Wow. What an incredible deep dive into these sources today. It really shifts the perspective. So to recap, the healer's path is a circle. It's about presence, not climbing some ladder towards perfection.
The core mechanics are those two wings. Stillness grounding you, awareness helping you see clearly, working together.
Right. And the practical structure, the gratitude healing system, uses body, energy, and awareness as pillars, with gratitude as that essential bridge.
The weaver, widening the lens so pain isn't the whole story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's lived moment by moment, breath by breath, with something as simple as that 30-second practice as our way in.
Absolutely. And as you start to integrate these ideas, even just playing with that 30-second pause, you're subtly changing your relationship with time, with stress, with yourself, really.
Yeah.
You're choosing remembering over fixing. And as you consider this path, this potential of your own quiet corner, maybe we can leave you with one final thought from the sources to mull over this week.
Okay.
If you were to live just one day, really fully, from that quiet corner, from that space where you know you're already whole, what would that day actually look like? What would be different in the small details? Go explore that.